When you hear the word God, what comes to mind?
Any honest description I can give would be unflattering to believers. And coupled with being a fan of the sci-fi and the fantasy, the mental images I have of deities are probably outside the worldview of your average theist. But okay, let's do this.
BionicDance!
Greetings, fellow space travelers, BionicDance here. Today we're going to tackle a topic that may well better illuminate part of why theists and atheists don't communicate as well as perhaps we might. We're simply using the same language to say different things, and it's getting in the way.
God? What, Magic Sky Daddy upstairs? Please.
Oh, don't go pleasing at me. When people say things like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, or the Lord above, or our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, what did you think people would start to picture? When God is depicted like Santa Claus wearing a toga in religious artwork, what did you expect people to picture? I mean, sure, you could say it's not meant to be taken literally, but what the artist intended actually isn't that important. We're talking about how people picture a God, and with all of this father figure in heaven talk, what impression did you think the audience would take away from it?
I had an image, you see. Now, I didn't have a physical one. I had an image in my head. An idea.
This vision, was it of Quaaludes? 'Cause I think you took a few when you started making this video. I hope folks won't mind, but I'm gonna speed them up a smidge.
Magic Sky Daddy. Which immediately put me off every time I heard the word God. Which so happens to be one of the commandments. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image.
What? A graven image, according to the Bible, is an object carved from wood or stone, an idol. You know, it was engraved. Graven? This is easy rocket science here. So unless you're telling us that your brains are made of rock, the mental image you had wasn't a graven image. Why God felt this commandment was such a biggie is a separate issue entirely.
So instead, I looked to science.
No, you didn't. I'm willing to bet that I can count using the fingers on one hand the number of times that this has happened ever. Nobody has ever gone, well, golly, that religion thing sure didn't work out. Better go see what a physicist has to say. 0 can be counted on one hand, and I'm willing to bet that that's happened 0 times. Maybe the reverse, where someone sees a lot of science and begins to question their religious beliefs. But leaving a religion, looking around for a replacement, and deciding that science is now your spiritual go-to, I don't buy it.
The Big Bang. Evolution. And the universe.
Will theists ever give up this notion that science stands in as a replacement for God? Like not being religious immediately makes someone, I don't know, worship Darwin or some crap? I've met some very scientifically illiterate atheists. Or at least scientifically indifferent. Nobody has to become a priest of evolution just because they think that Genesis is superstitious nonsense, and never mind that abiogenesis and evolution aren't even the same thing. It doesn't work like that. Atheism is not a godless religion, Richard Dawkins is not our high prophet, and we're not your enemy. In fact, if religious people kept to themselves a bit more, I know that I, at least, would be largely indifferent toward them. It's the constant interference, the with us or against us attitude, the this world belongs to God attempt to reshape it more to your liking, and the incessant badgering, the refusal to live and let live that has caused a rise in new atheism. And science is a damn good tool to debunk your nonsense, because religious texts tend to make scientific claims which, and let's be honest here, usually don't pass even the most casual scrutiny. That's what science is. A useful tool. And that's all it is. I challenge you to find a significant number of atheists who view science like a religion. I think the most you'll find among scientists is a passion like that of an artist or an athlete, but you won't find theism.
I believed in things like chance, coincidence, randomness.
There is nothing random about rolling dice. They're physical objects subject to physical forces. Don't confuse our inability to predict on which side a die will fall with that result being the product of randomness. In fact, until you get down to the quantum level, our universe is quite orderly and only appears random to primates such as ourselves. But when you hear theists talk on this issue, I mean listen to a lot of them, you'll start to notice what's behind this claim of randomness. It appears that they think that anything which is not deliberately chosen, decided, or manually guided must be called random, that order cannot exist without agency. And that's simply not so.
Now, if you told me those were all names of God, I would have disagreed. Because my understanding of God was limited by the image I held onto. Magic Sky Daddy.
This is starting to sound like pantheism. Is his God a conscious, self-aware entity or not? Because if all of these things, the Big Bang, nature, etc., are God, then what do we need God for? It sounds like he just wants to use the word. Like he's trying to say that he's spiritual, but not religious. However, a universe that is God and a universe without God both look remarkably the same to me.
If I asked you whether this glass was half empty or half full, what would you say?
I'd say that it's completely full, half with liquid, half with air. Or I'd point out that the interior of the glass doesn't appear to be uniformly shaped, so while it appears half full of liquid, it's probably closer to 1/3 due to the more narrow and weirdly dimpled bottom end. Or I'd ask you which half. Or I'd grab the glass, chug the contents, and say, empty, and then hope that it's water and not, say, Everclear, or some other smartass answer, 'cause that's just how I roll.
Well, you could only give two answers, either half empty or half full.
Or...
But notice the glass cup and the water aren't in question. It's our perspective that's in question. Your answer would not deny the water in the glass, it simply gives your view.
And my view is I'm glad that it is just water.
So, if you observe random coincidences, and someone else observes perfect synchronicity, the observed is not in question. Your understanding of the observed is what's in question.
And yet you can only know what's being observed by questioning it. Not all perspectives are valid when the topic is something practical, physical, tangible, and most importantly, independent of our own consciousness. Some people are just plain factually incorrect or incomplete, much as they may hate to admit it.
Now, whether you choose to call the observed God, or nature, fate, or chance, karma, or coincidence, we speak of the same, you see. Of that which is greater than us.
Do we, though? I think that's a bit of an assumption. I mean, okay, if you want to quibble over the definition of the word great, we can, because my reply will change based on whether great means big, or if great means more nifty. Because much like with the words faith and belief, it would be really easy to say great twice in a sentence and not mean the same thing either time. Theists have been trying to pull that kind of linguistic shenanigans since forever. I'd rather say that I'm talking about the things around me and leave judgments like great out of it.
That which we have no control over.
Those over which we have no control yet. You'll note that his example was a lightning bolt, and we wouldn't be having this conversation at all if we hadn't learned to control, say, electricity. This guy's got to pick his examples better, because between dice rolling for randomness and thunderclaps for what we can't control, he's batting a 0 so far. I mean, sure, maybe he meant the weather is what we can't control, but humanity spent how long unable to control even fire? We're working on weather control. Be patient.
That which makes you fall to your knees in awe, and marvel, and wonder, and adoration.
I can't think of anything which qualifies that isn't human-created. But then I'm the sort who would go to the Grand Canyon and say, nice ditch, when's lunch? You know the first thing that occurred to me when he said awe and marvel and wonder and admiration? ILM. That's right, Industrial Light and Magic, the special effects company. Speaking as an animator myself, what they've created is amazing. What they've done with it makes me marvel and wonder and admire what they've made. By this definition, I should be falling to my knees before George Lucas. And he may have created a universe with a father, a son, and a rather large number of ghosts, but I don't think he's God.
That which you submit to.
I don't know this God fella, but he must be one hell of a top to be attracting all these bottoms. But submit? This guy seems to be going down the road of pantheism where everything is God. Should we be submitting to ourselves? When has humanity submitted to the universe? Succumbed, sure, but submitted? Humans tend to be conquerors, and we've spent history taming nature, making it submit to us. I grew up believing that anybody who would see you submit to them was an enemy to be defeated, but this guy thinks I should feel awe and wonder for that which would see me show throat to it. And I'm saying no.
That is who I call God.
So I was right. He doesn't believe in a deity of any sort. He just wants to be able to use the word God. And he's applied it to a whole lot of things that already have names and for which any religious connection would be superfluous. God's unnecessary to this equation. Not that I ever expect to convince him of this. I doubt he'll even watch this video. I'm here for you folks, and I hope I was able to give a little clarity, and dare I say it, logical ammunition for future arguments, by using his video as a basis. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. Today we're going to tackle a topic that may well better illuminate what the blah blah blah. Or our Father who art in heaven. Will theists ever give up this notion that science stands in as a replacement for God, like not being religious and religious? In fact, until you get down to the quantum level, our universe is quite orderly. I can't think. I think. You know, Dewey, we wouldn't have to do this if I had more Patreon patrons. Just saying.
Halt.